For this research project, I chose to focus on Latinx culture and mental health in college students and whether there are positive or negative impacts. To begin with a quick introduction, arguably one would think that having a culture or a connection to something abstract would be beneficial for anyone. But if that culture has parts that tend to weigh heavy on a person, it may begin to do the opposite. And so the intersection of culture and mental health plays a crucial role in Latinx college students, but the real question is whether it is beginning to impact them negatively or if there are still positive aspects. First, let's take a look at the history. The Latinx population has deep roots in immigration from Mexico and other countries in Latin and Central America. In the 1980s, when the U.S. saw increased numbers of migrants, it was projected that no more than 10% held anything higher than a high school diploma. Literature shows that Latinx immigrants migrate for a variety of reasons, including economic sustainability, health reasons, and involuntary reasons such as conflicts and asylum seeking. The emphasis on the history of Latinx immigration is to highlight the cultures that are also brought with these immigrants. Coming to the U.S., many of these immigrants bring their values and their culture with them, and in turn pass it down to their children, U.S. born or not. Some cultural values passed down from generation to generation are familismo, respeto, traditional gender roles, and religiosity. These are parts of Latinx culture that are deeply rooted in older generations who then turn around and attempt to push them onto their children. But we will address this more later. Next, let's move on to the research aspect of all of this. First, let's begin with the politics. Understanding the impacts that policy has on Latinx college students is key to understanding fears and anxiety. Affirmative action and immigration policy are two political domains that contribute to mental health issues currently. Especially in recent times and administrations, anti-immigrant and anti-Latinx rhetoric has been rampant and has serious implications for college students' mental health. Research conducted by Portillo et al. In 2022 highlights how the constantly changing political rhetoric and increased use of technology impacts the mental health of Latinx college students. Their conclusion is that increased online racism and discrimination has a relationship to the mental health outcomes of Latinx students. Politics play key roles in the outcomes of Latinx college student mental health, especially when it impacts them directly or those around them. Ayan et al. 2024 highlights the impacts that politics has on undocumented students. Heightened political tensions and the stigma towards undocumented individuals have led to lower levels of students seeking out mental health support. So, in turn, both pieces of research have allowed us to come to the conclusion that politics plays a key role in the mental health outcomes of Latinx college students. Next, let's move on to the cultural and social aspects of everything. So, circling back to cultural values, Corona et al. 2016 research supports the idea that the pressures of this culture can negatively impact a student's mental health by making them feel more isolated and disconnected from their surroundings and their own ethnic identity. There is a distinction that must be made from this research: the difference between cultural values and cultural stressors. Arguably, values could become a stressor due to a lack of connection. Example being, if a student is not connected to the value of familismo, which is about the value of family connection, it tends to lead to increased symptoms of depression and anxiety. This research overall highlights the intersections of culture and mental health, along with how values, despite having beneficial aspects, can just as easily turn into stressors for students, contributing to worse mental health outcomes. On the other hand, in the same exact research, highlights how having a steady connection to cultural values can in turn become a buffer or become a deterrent to worsening mental health. On the social aspect, Batty and Andrade 2019 discussed the systematic and social barriers that Latinx college students continuously face. Their research begins at a 4-year HSI, or a Hispanic Serving Institution, and they find that despite being at an institution that is designed to serve Hispanics and Latinx cultures, students are still reporting high levels of negative mental health outcomes, especially those that may not have a direct connection or feel a connection to their ethnicity or their cultural values, in turn making them more isolated and more prone to depressive symptoms. This kind of topic is not something that needs just one field of study to look at it. There's the anthropological field of study that can attribute valuable information and valuable insights. There's also the sociological standpoint that can be looked at, and how society strengthens those cultures and how society continues to pressure students, that in turn either forces these students to draw away from their culture that they know, or reinforces that culture and continues to either impact them negatively or positively. So to propose a research question to focus on the technology aspect of this and the political aspects of this, and how technology influencing the political landscape and how that is impacting Latinx college students and their mental health. Being able to look at technology and how many Latinx college students interact with technology on a regular basis in the form of social media, news, simply AI usage. The method to analyze this that would probably be best are questionnaires, or surveying a sample of college students that are Latinx origins, and to have a sample of that population and just ask questions about their daily technology usage, how much of that time spent on technology is on looking at news, looking at social media, looking at all of these different places, and also collecting different data on how likely are they to experience this, as well as how much they have actually experienced these kinds of issues. This research and the impact and the contribution it would have for global studies is simply that when students are interacting with technology, when they're interacting with people online through media, news, social media sites, there's no telling who they're going to be exposed to and what they're going to be exposed to. And very easily, technology is such a connector. This information would be able to contribute to global studies in the sense that we really get to see just how, one, interconnected we are through technology. Two, being able to analyze these ideas and these the spread of it through technology inherently goes back to global studies and allows us to look really at the global spread of just simple hatred, and how all of that affects the mental health of not only Latinx college students here, but college students in, say, the UK, college students in countries like South Korea, or in other countries.